What's up, beautiful jellyfish? It's Tracy. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch my video. Today we're going to be talking about the new Commander 2015 set intro pack things that just recently came out. They actually came out yesterday on Friday, and a lot of people have been talking about them, and I wanted to talk about them as well and give my opinions on basically what's going on with these things. So these Commander sets start off at $35, and then some of them you can actually buy them like all together if you want to, which costs, goodness, I think I've seen them for like 100, 130, something like that. Or you can just buy them individually for $35 a piece. And I wanted to do some general overviews and then go through each of the decks and give my opinions on what cards I think are really awesome. So, first, as like a major overview of these decks, something I really like what Wizards of the Coast does is that they give these packs for people who are getting into Magic, who don't have a lot of cards, who don't necessarily know how to build decks right away. So I really like how they offer these. And something that's really cool about these is a lot of people will take these and get like a lot of the general cards in them and keep them in, a lot of the core cards, and then just trade them out for other cards, which I think is really sweet. And a lot of these give a really nice like overview of what a deck can do in EDH and how you can tweak it to basically make it better. So I think that's really cool. There's a lot of also in these, like, these in and of itself, like, if you just buy these for $35 and you don't do any tweaks to them, they're going to be pretty okay. They're not going to be amazing. However, EDH is a casual format, so it's not, you know, depending on your play group, most of the time, I know people in EDH groups who they play EDH pretty casually, especially for our group of friends, when a lot of us do play competitive Magic. We're kind of like, we just want EDH to chill and just kind of relax and, you know, to have fun and stuff. Not that competitive Magic isn't fun for us, but, like, you know, we want kind of like a break from that. So, I don't know, I like that. I like that about these, and I like how you can pick them up and use them and tweak them accordingly. So, yeah, cool. So, a couple of cards that I really enjoy that they put in these Commander sets. One card that I really like how they're happy that they put in every Commander set, I believe, is Command Tower. I was really excited to see this because a lot of people starting out playing Magic, this is a really important card that they want to have. If they're running 2+ colors in the game, these are cards that are really good to have. So I really appreciated how they reprinted that, and very similarly to Command Tower in terms of what I was happy that they reprinted is I was so gonna say something and then I totally forgot what I was gonna say. Scratch that thought. New card that came out that I was really, really excited for, and that is Thought Vessel. As soon as I saw this card, I was like, this is sweet. I was like, this is like Reliquary Tower in an artifact that costs 2 mana. This is really cool. So, I think this is going to be a really good staple for a lot of people in decks that run Reliquary Tower and things like that, and I like how it's a mana rock, so you can tap it for mana, which is really cool, as opposed to running something like Spellbook, where it just kind of sits on the board and it's an artifact that it doesn't really do too much. So this card is really great because it's a mana rock. I really like that, and it's like you get a bonus out of it because you have no maximum hand size, so I can definitely see this being used in a lot of EDH decks, and I think it's really cool. It's just a really cool card in addition to, you know, really cool EDH staple. Speaking of EDH staples, Sol Ring, really happy they reprinted this. I mean, again, kind of something that's probably always going to be reprinted in EDH, just because it's so good. It's kind of, it's just, if you're building an EDH deck, you may not know what you're going to do with the rest of your deck, but you're probably going to put a Sol Ring in it, because it's just really good. Cool. I'm also really stoked that they, reprinted Temple of the False God and threw that in there. I think this is a really important land card, given it's not super expensive, but I do think that it is really important for people to have, and definitely a really good EDH staple. Cool. Then I saw this printed in a couple of them, but not in all of them. Lightning Greaves. I actually don't know how much Lightning Greaves is going for right now off the top of my head, but it's given like $5, $6.
That's how much it's going for.
I don't think it's $1 million. It's like 5 or 6. Thank you, Grisha. Anyways, so Lightning Greaves is super great. Definitely a huge staple. I know a lot of people were leaning more towards on getting Swiftfoot Boots because it's financially just cheaper, but Lightning Greaves is just really sweet. The only thing about Lightning Greaves to keep in mind, depending on your build of the deck, is that it does give it Shroud, so you can't target it. So that's my only thing with Lightning Greaves. over Swiftfoot Boots. I usually lean on more on Swiftfoot Boots, also Swiftfoot Boots is just cheaper. So I think that's definitely a really cool thing that they included in there, and I like that. And the last card that I was really stoked that they reprinted in a couple of them is Eternal Witness. Eternal Witness is amazing. It's being used in Modern, a lot of different decks. It's really, really good. Also, it kind of just jumped up in price. I think it was like $7 or something, so hopefully that'll go down with, you know, it being reprinted in this, and it's just a really amazing card. Good in, you know, a lot of different, like, format like Modern as well as EDH, so yeah, cool. Those were a couple cards that I was really excited to see. Most of them are reprints. Yeah. So now we're going to go into the overview of each of the different decks. So the first one that's out, by the way, these will be linked down below, or you can just Google them. They're like the Commander 2015 sets. The first one is white and black. This is white and black's probably my favorite color combination, and they took this in a more enchantment type route. Only thing with this thing that I would say, something that you may want to potentially tweak in this deck is you could potentially go Abzan with it, so throw green in there, because you can run this really awesome card called Strength from the Fallen, and you can kind of do, because you're doing black, you can kind of do like a bit of like your creature's dying and like things like that, and you could potentially, you know, things go in the graveyard, and, you know, like Night Howlers are a good card that's in here that synergizes really well with that combo. One of my friends, when this was a really, Strength from the Fallen was a really popular thing in Standard, he ran the Strength from the Fallen Constellation deck. It was absolutely amazing. It was so good. And I definitely think that would be a really cool thing to do with Commander. So I think that this deck, where it's good, I do think that throwing the green in there to make it Abzan would just be absolutely incredible, because you have a card like Strength of the Fallen. You also have like Eidolon of the Blossoms. There's a lot of really good green enchantments that I definitely think you could play around with if you potentially wanted to do the splash. Of course, you would be losing the Commander in that instance, and right now off the top of my head I can't think of any good Abzan like enchantment Commander type things, but yeah. And this card, of course, could still, like, be in the deck and everything, and you could still run it, and you could run tutors because you're running black, you run, like, Liliana Vest, things like that. But, cool. A couple of cards that I really liked in here. A couple of these are reprints, a couple of these are new things, but a couple of really awesome staples for the cards that I was really excited to see. Really excited to see Burnished Heart being reprinted. I love this card so much. I think this is a really good mana rock in the format, basically, because, you know, you play it on turn 3, turn 4 you can sack it, and then turn 5 you have access to math. You have access to lots of mana. So I was really stoked to see that get reprinted in this. Again, and a lot of these cards aren't really expensive, and you gotta keep that in the back of your head, but, like, at the same time, a lot of these people who don't have access to these cards, they can just buy this and they just have all the cards right there. So I think that's really cool. So just something to keep in the back of your mind. Because again, a lot of people, you know, when they've been playing the game for a while, they're like, yeah, whatever, it's a cent card. But it's like, no, it's like these people don't have access to that, or things like that. So cool. That's one card that I was stoked to see printed. What else? Oh, this is a card. Oh, I didn't see that this was in here too. This card is really cool. This is Orisco's Explorer. This card kind of reminds me of like where access a number of players who control more lands than you. Oh, this card's, players who control more lands than you. Oh, huh. Still kind of an interesting thing. I like this card. It's kind of reminds me of like a cheaper version of land tax. Land tax is pretty expensive if I'm remembering correctly, but I like this card. I think it's really sweet. It's just really good. It's really nice for, you know, a way of ramping, basically, and I thought that it was really cool. Then, other cards that I liked in this thing were Mesa Enchantress, very staple. If you're running enchantments in EDH and you're running white, you're probably going to be running this card. So I think that card's really sweet. Again, Night Howler, super excited to see that card reprints. I think that card's really cool. I run Night Howler in Tasigur EDH and it's incredible. It's just like, put this big thing on my thing and it's cool. Then we get to, this is not an alphabetical order, that's really annoying. Okay, then we get into, a Johnny's Chosen. Make cat tokens. Seems pretty good. I like a Johnny's Chosen. I definitely think this is a card, if you're running enchantments in this thing, you're gonna use that. And something too that I'm a really big fan of is, I really like when you play cards that give you, like, tokens. I just think that's a really cool thing. That's something I noticed in these EDH sets, is a lot of the cards that you play a creature, or you play an enchantment, or when you play an enchantment or something, you get a token, so I think that's really cool. So I kind of like that whole token gen thing in there, and they're cat tokens, and cats are great, so that was awesome. Then we have, this card's really interesting, and honestly, this is such a weird card that I used to have an Orzhov EDH deck, and I, for some reason, don't remember this card being in there. Unless this is a new card. I don't actually know. This may be a new card. I could be totally making that up, because it has Extort. Because I, like, was like, I totally didn't put this in my deck, and I don't remember. This card is really interesting. I really like it a lot, because you attack with it, and you get something back from your graveyard, which I think is great. So someone kills your enchantment, they kill your artifacts, whatever, you can get that back, and then you get that enchantment back to your hand, and you replay it, and you get more triggers off your things. So getting things back from your graveyard is just really, really cool, and I like that a lot. Really stoked to see Teysa reprinted. She's awesome. She's super great. Like, I kind of want to build like an EDH deck around her, because she's just really, really awesome. She's cool. Yeah, I think I may build a deck around her. Who knows? Cool. And then we get into some other cool cards that I liked. First one that we have is Black Market, and I'm pretty sure this card is a reprint. This card is really, really sweet. Like, the fact that you get the chance to manipulate, like, so much in black of cards and creatures dying because you're running a lot of cards, like you're running board wipes, you're running spot removal, things like that. And that's something that I definitely will say, that if you take this deck and you make it more of like having your creatures die, and when things happen when your creatures die, you can play like Strength of the Fallen. So I think that's really sweet, and I just think this card is really, really great, and you just generate a ton of mana to cast whatever. So I think that was really cool. Cool. Then we have Sigil of, or however you say that, of the Empty Throne. Again, very, very standard enchantment card, definitely to generate some tokens, to generate some angels. Then I liked, what does this card do? Oh, Grasp of Fate. I think this card is super great. So if you know me in Magic, let's just say one of my favorite cards ever is Oblivion Ring, and variations of Oblivion Ring, which, by the way, Oblivion Ring is not in here, and I'm really sad about that. Like, you're doing enchantments, bro. Also, you're doing white in EDH. You should be running Oblivion Ring because it's amazing. But, like, Grasp of Fate is so sweet because it's just like, the card's so good. It's like, there's one thing that I don't like out of all of yours. I'm just gonna, like, put them under this enchantment. Seems, like, really good. I like it a lot. And I think the card that's really interesting about this is, you know, a lot of people say with EDH that it's a lot about politics. So you play this card, and yeah, someone may be bummed that you're getting rid of their really big threatening thing, but then that person also may be happy that you got rid of the other person's really big threatening thing, so I just think this card is really sweet. Cool. And then we have, I just wrote down cards that I liked, and then I don't know where any of these are, because a lot of these are new cards, and I just don't know what to do yet. Cool. Then we get into, Crystal Chimes. This card is really sweet. I like it a lot because you could potentially play this, and then, like, if you run Greed in this deck, you could, like, play Eternal Witness and, like, get this card back, and then you just get your enchantments back. Again, people are going to be running ways of getting rid of your enchantments, so you're going to want to, you know, the chance to get those back, and the fact that you can, you know, for, in a sense, 6 mana, you can get back all of your enchantments that are in the graveyard is super, super great. So yeah, that's it for the enchantment deck. Like I said, I think that if I were to do this deck, I would just throw green in it. I think there's a bunch of really cool green cards that I would just, you know, do. Yeah, I think the card is pretty, the deck is pretty okay. You know, I don't think it's the best one out of all of these, and I'll talk about that, which ones I think are the best, but yeah, I do think that it's cool. And like I said, for beginners, these are great. They're absolutely awesome. Then we get into the red-blue type of deck. And first, I want to talk about the commander in this, because I think the commander is super sweet. It's, the whole experience counter thing is really interesting to me. I don't know, I gotta kind of play with it and see how it works, but this is really, really good. It's just, the fact that you can just play this, and like, you can cast stuff for like so cheap, I just think is really, really cool. I like this a lot. I like Izzet colors. I think it's a really interesting color combination that I don't think gets enough attention. A lot of people say that it's one of the worst color combinations, but I think this is really cool. So that was that. One card that I was really happy to see reprinted in this is Talrand Sky Summoner. I actually have a Talrand Sky Summoner deck, which I'm thinking of taking apart because it's just blue control and no one wants to play against it, and it's just, it's best one-on-one because, like, blue control is really just the greatest thing one-on-one because you just control the entire board, but a lot of people don't like it. And, again, I like it because you play Tower End and you get a bunch of Drake tokens with flying, which is really cool, and you're going to be casting so many instant sorceries, so you're going to be getting so many of them. And a lot of the instant sorceries are going to be really cheap, too. You got cards like Brainstorm, which is really cool. So, yeah. Then we get into... What is my handwriting right there? I don't even know what that word is. Oh, that's what that word is. Oh my gosh, my handwriting is terrible. Okay, cool. Then we get into Psychosis Crawler. This card is amazing. This card's a reprint. And you just, if you're running blue in EDH and you're drawing lots of cards, which you probably are drawing lots of cards because you're playing blue, please run Psychosis Crawler. It's amazing. It's just, you play it and it gets really big, and then it's just, you swing, and then your opponent loses life whenever you draw cards, and you draw lots of cards, more than one a turn, and it's just super, super sweet. So that card is cool. Then we get into Melik, who's reprinted. And Melik is just super great. I think that my thing with Melik was that, and one of my friends actually has a Melik deck, and he said that the only thing about Melik that he doesn't really care for is the fact that Melik is 6 mana. And you're playing blue and you're playing red, so you're not really, you're mana ramping, but you're not really mana ramping that much. The fact that this commander is 4 mana, which I think is really important, and you have Melik in the deck, so you have access to him. And he's just absolutely insane in this deck. He's just super great. You get to just double, like, I'm gonna double cast Dig Through Time. Sounds good. Or Treasure Cruise. Sounds like a great day. Those cards should so be in here. Agreed. Agreed. Then we get, oh yeah, Mystic Snake. Wait, no, Mystic Snake, that's another thing. I was like, wait, what? That's off color. Never mind. Then we get into one of the cards that I think I am most excited for in this EDH set, and that is Mystic Confluence. I think out of all of these cards, the types of cards of the Confluences, I think the blue one is the best one. It's actually one of the most expensive cards in the set. I don't know how prices are right now with each of the individual cards, but I did see this card as like $10 around there. This card is super sweet because it's like, I'm gonna pay, you know, 5 mana to have you counter a spell for that you gotta pay 9 for, or like whatever. This card is just really, really sweet. I actually even heard of this spell being played in, like, Legacy or something, potentially. I don't know. I don't know about that. I don't know anything about Legacy, really, so. But yeah, I think this card is the best Confluence. I think it's just really, really sweet. Yeah. Cool. And again, this card's gonna be cheaper because you have your commander dude, and then it's like 2 mana to do those things. 2 mana to draw 3 cards at instant speed. That sounds really good. I like it. Awesome. So that is the red-blue. Then we get into one of my favorites, and that is green, the green-black. And the thing about this one is that I just did one of my most recent videos is my Mugus God of Slaughter Mogus deck tech, and it was a sacrifice deck. And the thing is that I was thinking about it, that there's a lot of really good cards in green black that revolve around sacrifice. So I was thinking about it, like, dude, I want to do tricolor. I don't really know, because the green is really good, and I can run Gerard, and I can bunch of really good things, but I don't really know. And this card, it's just so good. I think this is probably the best. I think if you're going for, like, just a really, really good deck, I think this is arguably one of the best. It's just, I'm a huge fan of it. I really like Sacrifice, and I like it. I like Sacrifice a lot because when you're playing EDH, people are going to want a board wipe, and you don't care about board wipes, which I think is just really important, because you can just sacrifice yourself in response, or you board wipe and you sacrifice yourself in response, so you don't really care. So I really, really like that a lot. A couple of cards that I'm really liking in this. The first is Sakura Tribuilder. I really like this card. I think this is a really important, really good EDH staple, just in general, because you get mana from it, which is really cool for 2 mana. Satyr Wayfinder, pretty straightforward. I really like this card a lot. Then, what else do I like from this? Wood Elves is really good. I like that card. Gerard, like I said before, Gerard is super amazing. Because you just have this really, really big dude, and then you just sack it, and it's like, you don't even have to swing with it. You can just sack, like, I'm gonna sack my 11/11, deal you 11 damage for 3 mana. Sounds good. Shriekmaw. Really excited to see this card reprinted. I think this card's really sweet. I like this card because you evoke it, and it goes to the graveyard, and then you can just, you know, potentially get it back with your stuff. Like, you've got Eternal Witness in this or whatever, and you want things in your graveyard. So, yeah, I think this card's really sweet. Cool. And then you got, you know, a couple other staples. You got, like, Acidic Slime, which that card is just... I love Acidic Slime. It's so fantastic. Awesome. Then we get into one card that yeah, this card is a reprint, but I really like it, and that is Eldrazi Monument. I'm actually thinking about putting this in my Mogus deck, because it's just so good, because it's just a free sack outlet, basically. It's like you don't have to worry about finding any of your sack outlets. It's just like at the beginning of each upkeep, you're gonna, or I'm sorry, at the beginning of your upkeep, you're gonna have to sack a creature. It's just so good. It's just, you know, it's super, super amazing. And the fact that your creatures get +1/+1, and they have flying, amazing, and they've got indestructible, so that's super good. So that gets them by a lot of removal and stuff, so I think that's really sweet. So yeah, like I said, I think, arguably, I think this is probably the best one. I think that's what people have been saying, is I think that the green-black one has been arguably the best. So, cool. Now we get into the white-red. There's a bunch of really fun stuff in the Boros theme deck. This card deck is pretty, there's some really interesting stuff. So, a couple of cards that I really like in this. The first one I like is Magnus of the Wheel, which is Wheel of Fortune on a creature that you could potentially, like, keep bringing back with, you know, I mean, maybe not necessarily in this deck, but, you know, to, like, take this and, like, put it in other EDH decks or whatever. Like, this card is just amazing. And then you're running, like, discard stuff. This card in, like, a discard deck is, like, absolutely fantastic. That card's really sweet. Then we get into this card, which I really like the angel type of theme in this deck. Something I don't really like so much about this one is I don't like how they... Okay, this is something that really, really bothers me, is I don't like it when they try to do, like, this theme of, like, I'm gonna do, like, a giant theme deck, and they put, like, angels in it. That drives me insane. Like, given you have a deck and it's like, you know, say you have a couple of things, but, like, when the majority of things, when, like, only half of them are, like, giant theme, that drives me crazy, because, like, we're gonna do tribal and then we're gonna, like, throw in other stuff, and that bothers me. So I don't like how, like, this one does that. But there's a bunch of really cool stuff in here. I really like the new, one of the new angels that came out, which is Herald of the Host. Myriad as a, or Myrid, however you say it, as a mechanic, I think is just really, really cool. This is the Sarah Avenger, but better. So this card is just really sweet. Cool. Then we have a reprint. We have Sun Titan, which is... This card is absolutely incredible, because it's so specific. It's mana cost 3 or less, but the fact that you can, like, you get back anything, which is really amazing. I actually had people, when I had a Bloom Titan, they thought that Sun Titan would have been an interesting choice, because I would usually get back, like, Amulet or something like that. Because, again, it's just anything that costs 3 or less. You can get back an artifact, an enchantment, whatever, it doesn't matter. So I think that's really cool. Yeah, then we get you know, into the Angel Tribal a little bit. We have Angel of Serenity, which is being reprinted. And this card is just absolutely amazing, because you play it, and then you get to exile those 3 things. And this is really cool because it synergizes really well with, like, tokens or something like that. So say someone, like, has, you know, like, a big token. You're like, I'm gonna exile it, and then it doesn't come back because tokens just fizzle when they die. So I think that was really cool. So Angel of Serenity is just really great. She's one of my favorite creatures who, you know, acts as removal. And then we get into Giselle, which a lot of people were really excited about being reprinted, and I am too. I think she's really good. She's definitely a really late game bomb when you just top deck her, and she's super good. I like her a lot. Then another reprint, Staff of Nin. I love this card. I really do. I think that this card is really underrated in my opinion, because it's 6 mana for what it does, but the fact that every time, you know, at your upkeep all the time you get to draw a card, which is really cool, and the fact that you get to ping something, it's creature or player, so you get to ping their mana dork or whatever, or you can ping a person. and you know your ADH game goes on like a little bit longer. You can do this multiple times, so I like Safavin. I think it's a really cool card. Then we have Seer's Sundial. I like this card a lot, actually. I'm building an Omnath EDH, and I'm gonna put this card in here because it's just so good. Landfall is an amazing mechanic, as Battle for Zendikar had lots of landfall stuff in it. The fact that every time you play a land, every time a land comes into the battlefield, you can pay it and draw a card. Super amazing. Absolutely fantastic card. Cool. Then this is a card for the tribal decks that I think is just, I think tribal decks are just going to be all over, and that is Urza's Incubator. This card's fantastic. Like, this is, I think, a card that just tribal decks are just going to be really, really stoked for, because it's just, they can just pay their stuff, you know, and it's cheaper, and it's going to work in so many different decks, which I really, really like. Do I need this in my Angel EDH deck? I feel like I do. Yeah, I feel like I do, because that card's really sweet. Then we get into one card that a lot of people really, really enjoy, and that is Blade of Selves. I think this card is just going to be absolutely amazing, because you're like, I'm going to put it on, like, my big dude, and then you're going to get a token, or, like, multiple tokens, and, like, just something really big and really intimidating, and then just swing. You just put the card on, like, anything. It's just super, super good. Sweet. Then we get to the last deck. And this is the deck that I think is, in my, like, in my head, I rank this as, like, the second best one. There's just a bunch of really cool stuff in there. I like the whole +1/+1 counter theme. I'm actually building potentially a Simic +1/+1 type of deck, and I think this card is really sweet. I think there's a bunch of really awesome cards in there. Experiment 1 is a really good standard. I like this card a lot. Coiling Oracle is another card that I love. I love this card. It's so sweet because you pay 2 mana for it, and I like it because if it's a land, it comes onto the battlefield. It doesn't come onto the battlefield tapped, and it doesn't count as your land drop for the turn, so that's really cool. I like that card. I think it's really, really good. And, what are some other cards that I like? Oh, Forgotten Ancient. I like Forgotten Ancient. I think it's super, super sweet. Definitely something that I was happy to see reprinted. Also, it's a couple dollar card, so I think that was really cool. Solemn. I was actually kind of surprised that Solemn wasn't in all of the decks that I've seen. I think it's just in this one, if I'm remembering correctly. It's absolutely amazing. It is a huge EDH staple. Something just, I think EDH decks just really need to have at this point. I need to get a couple more for my decks. I think the card is really cool. And another card that I really love in this deck, this has become one of, like, my favorite cards, is Mystic Snake, because it's, like, so good. It's like, in a sense, you kill 2 birds with 1 stone, because you counter something, you counter anything, which is great, and you get a creature out of it, which is just really good. And then again, you can keep bringing this card back and, you know, countering stuff. Amazing. I love it. Cool. Then we get into something that I don't know because I can't read my handwriting. It blows my mind sometimes that I write stuff and I'm like, what does that say, Tracy? I don't know. Ooh, Muldrifter. I like Muldrifter a lot. I think definitely really, really good EDH staple. Okay, I love this card. Prime Speaker Zagana. She is amazing. She's become one of my favorite cards, like, in EDH, because it's like you get, like, a big dude and then you get to draw cards. That sounds like a great day. She's super great. Maybe I'll make her the commander. That would be fun. I'll do, like, Evolutionary Leap, Big Eldrazi. Play, like, I don't know, some Big Eldrazi or something, and then, like, get to draw, like, 10 cards. That sounds fun, right? I don't feel like people would like me. How you know you're doing EDH right if people don't like you, right? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, cool. What else am I excited for? Frozen Grip? I like Frozen Grip a lot. I think it's really cool. Split Second's a really interesting mechanic. I don't really see it being used that much. I think Frozen Grip is super sweet. And then the last card that I want to talk about in this video that I really like, that I didn't exactly understand why it was in this. I kind of understand why it's in this deck, but I was kind of surprised that it wasn't in the other decks, the Sacrifice deck. I didn't think I saw it in there, which is High Market. This is a really interesting card, not a land that I've actually ever really seen before. I think it's because it's reprinted. It's printed in like 2 sets or something like that, but this card is super great. I like it because it's a mana. You know, it doesn't come in tapped or anything like that. It adds a colorless to your pool, pretty standard. But the fact that you tap it to sack, you know, any creature that you have, you want to be sacrificing stuff, that's something that you want to be doing, and you get a life off of it, which is really cool. So, and you want things to go to your graveyard, and it's just a really cool way to do it because it's a land, which I think is really awesome. So it kind of acts as, you know, it does 2 things because it provides you mana if you need it, or it provides you a sack outlet, which I think is really cool. So yeah, guys, those were my thoughts on the new EDH 2015 stuff. There's a bunch of really cool stuff. I don't know if I'll pick any of these up. I really don't know right now if I'm going to. If I do, it would be either the green blue or the green black. I'm kind of, I don't know. I have to see if I pick any of them up, but if I did, I may just get some cards from them because I think they're really cool. See if I can trade any, you know, cards because I think they're really cool. But yeah, like I said, I think that if, you know, arguably the best, I really like the green black, but I also do really like the green blue as well, and I think those are 2 really good ones. But overall, I think that, you know, these are pretty solid. There's nothing, I think, absolutely horrific, like this card is terrible, like there's some cards that are just not that good, but I think that's just going to be in every sort of thing. I think that there's a bunch of really good stuff, and I think Wizards has done a pretty decent job at coming out with these intro packs for, again, for new people who don't really have that many Magic cards. So I think it's nice because they can just pick this up and then just immediately go play with it. So I think that's just really cool. So yeah, alright guys, that's it. Hope you enjoy the rest of your day/night, and I'll talk to you next video. Bye!